စိတ်ဓာတ်မြင့်တင်ပါတယ်
Meet the Successful ဆိုတဲ့ဒီအစီအစဉ်လေးမှာအောင်မြင်သူများနဲ့တွေ့ဆုံပြီးသူတို့တွေဘလို့စူးစမ်းခဲ့ရတယ်ဆိုတဲ့ဘဝတွေကိုတင်ဆက်ပေးသွားမှာပါဒီအစီအစဉ်ကိုမြမအတန်နဲ့ရုပ်မြင်သံကြားမှအပတ်စဉ်တနင်္ဂနွေနေ့နဲ့ဗုဒ္ဓဟူးနေ့တို့မှာထုတ်လွှင့်ပြသပေးသွားမှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်
Really happy that we have distinguished guests and the business representatives in this special session on Myanmar's elections and business climate, business environment. And I have Vicky Bowman, who is director of Myanmar Center for Responsible Business. You are not stranger to Burma, Myanmar. You have been here for many years, and you are really one of the very few experts on the country and on the issues. So thank you for being with us. And we have one business representative, Mr. Antuli, who is representative from GE, General Electric, which is one of the big US companies that is already now in Myanmar, and thank you for being with us in the studio. And we have Go Chit Tompe, who, I mean, if we know Chit Tompe, that is a Burmese name. So, and who is a Burmese? But you were in US, you study in US, and now you are representative of Deloitte, one of the big companies, US companies that is now in the country. Thank you everyone for being in the studio for today. Okay, this is, in my opinion, this is the first time in 25 years Myanmar has, whatever it is so far, completed a successful election. And when we are speaking as of now, the results from the election are coming. The Nationally for Democracy, which is a main opposition party, which quite suffer a lot during the under the military regime, and it is coming out as a winner. And we are not sure yet with the results coming still and to be confirmed with the Election Commission, and whether NLD will win landslide victory or how much NLD will win. But whatever it is, NLD is won the election, and the ruling party, which is a successive, which is the party that's have to succeed the previous military junta or regime in the country, apparently lost badly. With these elections, whatever has taken place, what do you take on the election? What is your observation about the Myanmar's election?
Right. So I think maybe we're going back election in 1990s, and that's what very fast after 88, where we both probably know very well. And then of course NLD won the landslide. That's our part of the history. And then after that, over these 25 years, I don't think 2010 elections really free, fair, or open. And even 2012 is not that significant because the number of seats are not that many. But I think this is in the history. I think what Myanmar people are making history. It's very important, and after 25 years, the irony is that, everybody's, stay the love and the vote going to the NLD, which based on the sentiment I can see from the media. And so this is, to me, this is 25 years of love story. It's continuing, and that's many generations across, right? So our generation probably now 40, 50s, and older, and even younger. So I'm very fascinated about the election. But most importantly is, of course, who we want to win could be biased. But most importantly, I want to point out is this is a significant effort not only from Myanmar government, also from international, and they're really emphasizing and this Myanmar government giving the credit that allow international to come and monitor and to run the whole process.
But
so
is this election free and fair?
To
in
me,
your opinion?
Compared to the 2010, significantly better. Compared to 2010 election that what this country had, 2015 has significantly much better. And so we have this kind of argument a little bit with international community, with us. And so they say free and fair, they try the best they could, free and fair. But to me, it's the quality of the election, right? So how much the voter list, it could be intentionally or unintentionally. I don't want to blame to anybody, but the quality of election could suffer because inexperience and maybe participation and cooperation within this development might not be as smooth as we did. People don't trust each other, political party don't trust to the government don't trust to the political party. So I think the quality and timely election is a little bit of is a kind of constraint. Given the time, I think the quality and the timely, but we choose to be timely. We don't want the election to be postponed. So I think the quality might suffer. The number of the voter list is in a big mess. And now I saw that you've been criticizing with the, how many people are really eligible. How are we going to get those data? So I'm definitely concerned about quality. But free and fair, I wanted to see further result because I hear some story. Hopefully it's not, but genuine some mistake which could be acceptable. But I think I'm not too worried much because international communities are there, and this has to make this government to show that. Whoever the winner, to embrace the winner. I believe they will do that with a goodwill. So, but I think over the time, but comparing to many other elections, probably Myanmar have, but this is historic, and the most people participated, and also most likely people really vote with their heart and soul, and they have really want to change. So they send a clear message to the country, regardless of whichever current government may think some other cases where they have a stronghold, but you can obviously see that they've been upset. And they, are winning by NLD. So I think this is really at least full representation of the people and desire and people wish. I think so that level. I think this election produced a result that we like to see in terms of the context.
Many people view. Let me ask. Many people view this election very significant step, especially because Myanmar is in the transition or beginning of the long road. What do you think? You've been here, you have witnessed the political developments, ups and downs, all these years. Why is it significant for the country, and why?
Well, it's clearly significant for the country, but then so was 1990. And I arrived first time in Yangon in about 2 months after the 1990 election, 2 days before Gandhi Hall Declaration. So I remember a similar period then, and obviously we're all praying that the next 25 years history doesn't repeat itself, because both of those elections were significant. It's good that we now have a fresh result, which, as Chris says, I think does represent the will of the people. My previous life involved some work in election observation, and generally missions don't like to talk about free and fair. They talk about, does it meet international standards? Frankly, I don't think it does. We've already had plenty of evidence of that. But does it represent the will of the Burmese people? Yes, I think from what we're seeing at the moment in terms of results coming out, it does. From a business perspective, I think that the certainty of this result will be very reassuring, because businesses generally see elections as slightly scary and destabilizing, because they always introduce a note of uncertainty into their relationship with the country. And that's true whether it's the UK or Myanmar or America or anything. So the fact that you've got a very clear result coming out, at least as it seems, is going to be something that's reassuring for the business community, because that will then potentially lead to much clearer policies down the track, both from Myanmar but also from its international partners like the US and others.
Yeah. Here I'd like to have 2 points. One is in 1990, NLD had a landslide victory, but the military regime at the time didn't hand over power to the NLD. This time we don't know still yet even though there are statements from the military commander-in-chief and the president that whoever wins, they will respect the results. So we will have to wait and see. So that is one point. Second point, yes, it can be a new government. It can be a beginning of the everything changes. But again, there is always a question of experience, inexperience. So are you worried or concerned with a new government coming, especially like a Nationally for Democracy Party, which came out of the movement, which didn't have experience in the administrative and especially in the business issues? Are you not concerned with that new government with a relatively new experience?
Well, I think, not really speaking for me, but speaking for businesses
Business,
generally,
yes.
they will be somewhat concerned about that. So, because generally what businesses want out of a government is a number of things. First is sort of transparency around their policies. The second is probity, honesty, that they're not corrupt. And the third is competence and skill, the fact that they really understand business policy, economic policy. And as far as we know to date, the NLD hasn't had any experience in that and is untested. So I think it's really important that we see an NLD government, if that's where we get to, taking on expert advice from skilled people who might be brought within government, or they might form some sort of advisory board to help upskill the new government and make some progress on filling some of those gaps in experience.
Let me ask Ko Andrew, you have been here for some time. Your company has been engaging with the business, not only business, with even the government of today. What are the problems and challenges when you try to work with the government or business here? That is one. Second one, are you also not worried about a new change, new government coming into power? I think that is what we are likely to see in next 4-5 months.
Well, first of all, Gusomyan, thank you for having us here today and broadcasting live to share some of our multinational companies' perspectives. Going back to your first question, yes, GE has been into Myanmar since 2012, and we've been really focusing about building human capital, human capacity, not only addressing some of the structural challenges, but also engaging with both private sector and public sectors. We know that coming into this country is not easy because out of all the countries in the world, U.S. still has a sanction. So as an American company, we have to play the rules based on the U.S. engagement. So which means that we have to ensure that SDN and blacklisted individuals and entities and being a good responsible multinational companies is a must. So having said that, we have been putting a lot of human capital and capacity building efforts. When we do these programs, it's not only looking at the private sector, but also looking at the public sector. So it's sort of joint building programs together where we share some of the best practices. That includes, how do you engage? What are some of the rules of engagement that the government needs to know, right? On the Foreign Corruption Practice Act, FCPA, improper payments. Some of these things are being illustrated not only at the government level but also at the private sectors that we are focusing on. Obviously GE is a huge conglomerate company where we do business from, healthcare to aviations to generations to energy to oil and gas, and of course to really help rebuild the country. And when you start talking about these human capital capacity issues, these are some of the best things that we're bringing in, right? Going back to your second question about the new incoming government, I'm just very happy to see the number of Myanmar citizens that are out there and voted passionately what Chris suggested. I think this is by far 2.5 decades. That's a long time that people want to see changes. Of course, the changes does not come in overnight, and I think this is something that everyone needs to be aware of, right? Change comes in with time, and the time comes in with what? More capacity building level. So despite, if you look at the country from a macro perspective, 5 years ago, we would never be imagined coming in and helping the country move forward. And you have to give the previous government or the existing government a lot of credit for doing that, right? And this is the reason why Deloitte, Coca-Cola, GE, Cisco, Ooredoo, Telenor, they are here, right? So you can't forget that. But if you look at the last couple of years, you got the development partners that's coming in, the World Bank, the ADB of the world, IFC, JICA, USAID. So I think there's going to be resources that will be available to train the new upcoming incumbent government. We don't know the actual results yet, but this is the progressive process. I think we all need to be, to have that consideration. This is a country of very complex diversity, right? And people want change, but change also comes with understanding a lot of internal complexities, and the internal complexity comes with what? Economic development.
Yeah.
When you don't have the economic development, it creates a lot of hardships. And basically, our theme is still consistent, that we will continue to train and build on the best practices, whether it be partnering with the chambers, partnering with the MCRB, or partnering with U.S. ASEAN Business Council, and do the good things that what Myanmar people is looking for.
Yeah, I think you three all look positive with what is likely to be the country in next few months. Next topic I like to go is what the expectations of business community, especially from the foreign companies that are coming or that are already in the country from the new government. But before that, let's have a short break. Welcome back. We have conducted a nationwide pre-election poll recently, just a week before the election. Except in Chen State, we conducted a quite thorough survey on election-related issues. One of the things that we found out is people in general are very much positive. More than 60% of the people are positive of the trend that Burma, Myanmar is taking place. And you look positive, at least to me, on what is likely to happen and how you will work with that kind of new situation. My question is, one, because there are problems. It is not that this country doesn't have any challenges or problems. So what kind of problems and what kind of challenges are actually the main challenges when you actually, as a business, when you actually try to do the business? Another one is, what do you expect from a new government, especially nationally for democracy-led government?
So I think businesses at the moment are facing a number of challenges, and Chris and Andrew will probably talk about some of them, but the ones I see particularly are around legal certainty and the transparency of the lawmaking process. And what we've seen over the last 5 years has been welcome reforms, but in a way they have been going too fast. And what's been coming out of the Luthor is in some cases poor law, some cases law that nobody knows about. And part of that problem is that those laws have been created generally in secret, perhaps not even intentionally, but it's been the habit. And so what I would hope and expect for is that lawmaking changes and lawmaking becomes much more paced and much more consultative before it goes to Parliament, and that the expertise of both business and civil society gets pulled into that lawmaking and policy-making process, rather than it being done within some Naypyidaw ministry by people who have a very narrow experience and narrow view. So that's really, I think, the expectation that I have, the hope I have, and something that will make business more confident about continuing to invest here. There are other challenges that businesses face. Infrastructure, I won't talk about because these guys are more expert on that, and human resources, the lack of skilled capacity. But I think that with this election result, we should be seeing more Myanmar repatriates coming back from Singapore, from US. So there should be some talent coming back in.
Yeah.
And that will be positive for the country's economic development.
But why I, for example, as a business guy, why I should invest in this country where it seems to be a lot of challenges?
I think that's a very good question, and I think often this country has sort of thought, hey, we're the golden land, we're the new place,
nice
we're the
place,
up-and-coming
people
destination.
Smiling, but
if you're a business person sitting in Washington or sitting in Singapore, you're comparing this place to Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, and you're going to be looking at costs, you're going to be looking at stability, you're going to be looking at transparency, corruption, and this country has to compete for that investment. And as everyone will notice, there is a global economic downturn. Companies don't have money to throw away on high-risk countries. So this government has really got to de-risk this country, and I would say transparency is the number one way to do that.
Yeah. And I'd like to ask Kuchit about one big issue in this country. Many people talk about this, and that is the fact. Here, very few people or very few business control a large number of business or the economy, one can see. Especially, these are the ones who actually got benefited all these years under the military regime because of their relationship or because of their connections with the system or with the establishment. And we call them, they are called as cronies.
Right.
How you are going to work with them? What is their role? And as a foreign business company, especially American company, to be in the country or in the country, how you are going to work with them, or you don't work with them?
Right. So let me give you the root of this problem, right? So it's not only the Myanmar, but any part of the world, probably the cronyisms and having this. So my view is very simple. Is politically the extractive political system, which is the dictatorship, right? So in order to sustain, they need economic system is also extractive, right? So in order for military government to be able to run, they need a crony. It's not Mr. ABC. They need that extractive people, so that way they can sustain the political economy. This small group support this extraction of this government, which is a small minority, it's a small group of the dictator. Then small group of businesses support them, and that's what happened. Like $31 billion report came out in resources. Global Witness, right? So all these small group take everything. So to me today, we are changing the landscape of political space. We have leader like Daw Aung San Suu Kyi. We have the platform like NLD Party, and you go into democratic system. So which become from extraction, dictatorship into inclusiveness. You're bringing democracy, federalism, and getting all this. So you change from extractive government political system to inclusive political system. So as for the business and economics, that has to reform because they will no longer survive. Because if businesses also need to be inclusive, right? So no longer should be extractive. So you ask how to deal with it, right? So to me, of course, that's a policy of the new government, but definitely. What probably Becky would say, to me, if I'm the government, I would say that okay, these are the people need to show their assets, what they belong to.
So you want again is a transparency
Yeah.
That is quite essential to be done by the new government.
Right now, nobody knows. You have all the report who own it. So you have to pay tax. You have to declare if you have all these some of the properties that belong to the people. You have to give them back. There has to be some level of adjustment has to be done. Then they have a clear guideline. So they were given the period of time that your behavior had to change, right? So to me, I want to see more constructive because economy need to be continuous. We don't want to be destructive. But there has definitely behavior changes have to be happen. But in all way, the case like drugs and other, but there's no way. There's no way to compromise the situation. But some level of opportunities and some level. But over the time, they need to transform the behavior. And I'm not saying that they will be successful. Some people will not be successful, but they will be isolated. But very important for new government to come out with the requirement and all the entities today being close with the military regime and extracted, they need to make clear their books been audited, they declare what they are doing, all the projects they come up with, all transparency, how they get agreement to. In some cases, they might be calling to review it, but it's necessary not just to destroy the businesses, but how we can continue those businesses. But most importantly, I think these resources are not belong to this small political group. This belong to the wealth of this country, right? So that's basically we make the policy very, very clear that nobody should be benefiting because of their relationship. So to me, but I also like to put this word that more on future looking, because we going back to the past, that may not be very wise for us, right?
But this government, if you ask this government, current government, they will tell you that no, they also have done quite a lot of changes in the last 4 years. And they are the ones which actually open the country up, and that is what they will tell you. Right. And why the new government should be different, or what are the differences they could do more?
Well, I think to be they open up and they invite the foreign direct investments. That's where they open up. But in terms of the cronyism, I don't think they realize it. They don't give a lot of project to those big crony names anymore. But there are new cronies. The way that we're practicing engaging is very similar pattern. They are developing new type of crony, right? And then they may not go to the famous crony, but they will go to not too famous crony, right? So to me, it's not this about how the practice, right? If you're really genuine and sincere, usually you know. And then the other problem I think is also that it's not just this is the one problem, right? So I like to see that this is the broader things, right? So I won't say this government not trying. They did try, the current government, but I think mainly because of they are always the protectionists. That's my view, right? They still try to protect these guys, and even though some try to be liberate, right? To me, is that I think definitely you have to look at it. First thing I will ask for is transparency. Second thing, that the government themselves, how are you going to manage these resources? Who owned it, why owned it, how they've been given to. That has to be inclusive. They have to share those information. The way how they are doing it had to change the behavior. And I don't think they have changed enough. But even the high level policy, they may look that they wanted to change, but they couldn't implement it throughout. So the biggest problem today for the business is still the corruption, even though it may not list at the top because people are so used to paying corruption anyway. But the corruption in a way is still the big problem for this country, for the next government, right? Yeah. So this are intertwined, right? The way of corruption is more sophisticated than before, right? And then they have so affiliated other associated companies and the way they are doing it, benefiting out of each other. So they need to change totally that, come up open, clean, and then there's the transparent. And most importantly, they have to look at it. These resources is for the country, it's for the people. So make sure that policy, wherever the government run, is benefit for the people, not for the small group.
Yeah. GE, General Electric, U.S. company, American company, has been doing quite a lot of work in terms of capacity building, and you mentioned about that. One of the findings that we got through our survey is there is very little awareness, around 26% on the part of the voters, who they are actually voting for. Yes, there is a higher percentage in terms of who they are voting, which party they are voting for. But when they actually go into who they are voting for, or in terms of policies of these parties, very little percentage of the voters are aware of these issues. So the question is, my question is, how you are going to do this with the level of the capacity that Myanmar is having, and that is the practical challenge and reason. Plus, are you confident that the new government, the National League for Democracy, looks like that is going to form the government? It is just a few weeks or months away from now on. Are you confident as you American company, big business, foreign business in Myanmar, are you confident that the new government will be able to do all this?
That's a great question, Gosomin. Well, first of all, let me try to answer question number 2 first. Then I'll come back to number 1. Right? If you look at Myanmar, the country has been isolated for more than 50 plus years. I think you also have to give a lot of credit for current administration that has made a lot of changes. Now, I think what people have in mind is the expectations are very high. Okay. What people, even internally for investors, don't realize is that structural challenges facing this country, starting from human skills labor force, transparency, both Chris and Vicky mentioned, rule of law. There are rules there, right? Enforcement of the law is not there, right? So you have all these potential upcoming cronies that what Chris was mentioning, but also the way we conduct our business. Right? Culturally, it's been isolated. So you cannot just expect things to come up within 5 years. So that's number 1. Number 2 is if you look at this country of 52 million plus, give or take, right? 52 and a half, 53, so let's just say 52. There's about 1/3 households that are electrified, right? If you don't have the electrification, you talk about economic development, you talk about standard of living, you talk about having a basic necessities to warm up your water, to cook. Those are basic things. So we see this country as a long-term strategic investment. And the one thing I could share with you is when we come in as GE or any American companies, we do not look at 2-3 years term, right? This is why I've been continuing to talk to other potential investors within the region. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon for us. Right? You look at the electrification, very low, one of the lowest in the region, right? You look at the aviation, right? More and more people will be connecting through within the country, but also intra-lateral region, from Singapore, Bangkok to Hong Kong, because there will be more jobs that will be created, right? People like us and multinational companies like us coming in, we're not only bringing, what do you call it, best practices, but we also providing the tools for them to empower themselves, right? You look at the healthcare sector, huge opportunities, right? You look at the healthcare spending the last 4 years. At one time, we're even below the Cambodia at 14.5, 15 million people compared to 52.5 million people. What does it tell you? Huge opportunities. I could also give you a anecdotal evidence that, I don't even know what numbers that goes out to get their medical tourism or medical checkup, because the healthcare sector in this country,
our data are not reliable so far
exactly.
in the country.
So we see that as a huge opportunity to help the country, to educate the practitioners, to educate the nurses, right? Because if you look at every sector, there's a need. So that's there from our perspective, because we want to be in a country for long term to help Myanmar move forward. That means making a strong commitment. That means working with the existing incoming government, either on human capital training or transparency, or bringing to Lee Kuan Yew School on ASEAN Policy Leadership Forum, or bringing them back to our G Leadership Global Learning Center at Cronville. Talks about some of the challenges that we do business around the world. Coming back to your first question is that, certainly there are significant challenges based on what we have said, but there's also opportunities. So we look at those challenges as opportunities for us to become a better enabler, multinational company or U.S. company. Yes, I also was born in this country, right? So what's the best way to give back to my own country than what I have learned from the U.S., educated from the U.S., to bring back some of the best practices that I have done, right? I lived the dreams of the U.S., right? Coming back to this country sometimes also not easy for me, because underlying what Vicky has said, what Chris has said, but it's the cultural mindset that it takes time to change. So for people that are watching this, right, and also, you know, expecting, look, this is, you gotta have realistic expectation.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So with that note, we have to be realistic. It's positive, but we have to be realistic with what is the new environment or what is the new government coming in. And I like to stop there, this discussion. You talked about the sort of a big, sort of big desire from the international community on the country and on the for the business of this country. But what are actually the prospects for this country? Can this country be a successful business either in the region or in the whole world? And what are the prospects?
I would like to think so, Kuzumin. Number one, you know, what Myanmar has to offer is she's a latecomer, right? She could learn from what Vicky has suggested, Cambodia, Vietnam, and some of the, you know, Mekong region countries, Laos, right? Certainly the rule of law, the enforcement of the law is incredibly important. So without the FDIs coming in, the country will be, you know, the progress of the development will be much slower. So I encourage whoever that's coming in to continue to focus on the continuity of of this economic development, which is basic things we're talking about, right? That once you have the basic things such as electricity, roads, right, telecom, people will begin to see the actual results. Second thing I want to touch upon is that, you know, there's a lot of you know, positive things in Myanmar that's beginning to turn. Certainly there's a lot of challenges also, but you know, I just want to highlight a few things. Number one, according to World Bank data, there's over 100,000 renewable hydropower in this country, right? This is a huge plus for the country, where she is strategically located between China and India, right? She's got a lot of access to the port, right? Number three, at one time, we as a country was the ASEAN, rice bowl of ASEAN, that we export so much rice. So agriculture-wise, significant opportunities. What Myanmar has to learn is what are the mistakes that some of the Mekong region went through that we don't have to follow. So potentially, you have the economic development gradually going like this, or you could go a little bit quicker. I'm not saying leapfrog, right? Just in terms of learning mistakes from others. Yeah. And that's what Myanmar has. And that's what we continue to focus on and to show the best practices and also share some of the stories from within the ASEAN as well.
Yeah, you've been working for this, for the responsible business, especially for the foreign companies that are coming into the country. What would be the key points for you, for a foreign business, to be very careful with when they come and do the business in Myanmar?
I think there are a couple of challenges for business which are also going to be challenges for a new government to fix. And the first is land. And it's something where we have both a very complicated and antiquated set of laws overlaid by some recent laws which don't necessarily fit either with business needs or indeed citizens' needs. So getting that land policy and land legislation right is going to take time, and in the meantime, businesses are grappling with land registers which are 60, 70 years out of date because people didn't register changes, wanted to evade taxes and so on. So that is a really big problem for businesses, and our advice to companies is always that they have to do a lot of due diligence beyond their lawyers and actually get down on the ground and find out what is the history of that land. Was it the subject of a land grab a while ago, that kind of thing. The second big challenge, both for business and for and for the government, is around the relationship between the central government and the ethnic states, and that plays out in a number of different ways, but particularly around revenue sharing. Revenue sharing from things like what Andrew's referred to on hydropower, because we don't at the moment have any arrangements whereby populations in those areas who will suffer from hydroelectric dams, as well as potentially benefiting from electricity, although it's not always the case that the neighbouring communities get the electricity even when the dam is built. We don't have any arrangements yet where they will get any kind of economic benefit out of that infrastructure, out of oil and gas, out of mining. And it's getting that relationship right, both in terms of taxation, permitting, but also simply managing the environmental and social impacts in a way which meets international standards, is something which to date has not really gone on here at all in this country. And so the government and those regional governments as well, and that's where I have my worry, that regional governments are being given many devolved powers and responsibilities, and they don't have the capacity either to deal with these issues. So those are challenges for business, and they're challenges for government as well.
I'd like to touch on the question of change.
Right.
I think in this election, change is the sort of the key word.
Yeah.
And the Nationally for Democracy have a slogan that, we need to change.
Time to change.
And the current government, even the president asked, we have been changing, what else you want to change?
Right.
So, and then basically the current government is saying, we have been changing, we have been doing changes.
Right.
So, in terms of change, in my opinion, I think with the new government coming in, one of the big changes is a new generation, a new younger people, members of parliament, even in the cabinet, are coming in different levels, in the parliament and in the administrative. You have been in the 1988.
Right.
What do you think of the younger leadership that the country, Burma, Myanmar, will be seeing sooner or later? Because the older generation is phasing out.
Right.
Even Daw Aung San Suu Kyi is 70s plus.
Right.
And the younger generations is coming up with the new government coming in.
Right.
What do you read on that? What do you expect from a young generation?
Well, I think younger generation actually, that's really their future, right? They're making this decision, right? So to me, this not only is important, but it's the most important, right? Because even our 88 generation and we're getting 45, 50, some of these are really, we talk about other country, succession planning in different area. We're looking at, young, energetic 20, 30s, they are pretty involved in through process and learning. So I think in Myanmar, I think this is a great opportunity for young people especially in this change. So you tell me, you also told me that previous government also said that they changed, right? And then why this is another change, right? To me, I think the real difference I see, right? In what we need a government is the government that who serve the people. They don't feel that they are superior than anybody, above people, because unfortunately, how I feel in the past government or current the military associated government is they are on top of the people. Not only young people, nobody being empowered. If you go to the offices, nobody really motivated. They are waiting order from their boss. Even some level like DG, they're waiting from the minister, right? So they always have this. The root of this government is driven by dictatorship from the top down, right? And so young people have no choice. Whatever they do, they have never been appreciated or even recognized because you're young. Your level is not there, right? So to me, this is really the opportunity. The civilian government come in, like body like NLD come in. I really wish that they do more inclusive, more empowerment. So this is the people government. If then they empower the people, the government is to serve the people, not government is to control or rule the country. People is the master and we are the servant. So that mentality would really give that change, mindset change is important thing. Whatever changes the Udain Singh government did, I think he forgot that change, the mindset, right? The culture, the mindset, that was actually the root cause of his government, which is not easy for him because he's a general, but that's what's important, and not only him, but the whole government structure. So this new government and new hope for me is more empowerment to the young people, trust, that come into education. Today, I'm sorry to say, but how much credit you want to give to the government? They still put in our future leaders like students like Piu Piu and Pakata. They are all still in the prison. That shouldn't be to me, right? What they ask for is change in education, to better education for them. And I'll be very vocal about that. I want them to be released and the students at this, and they have right to be. And so that's why it's important of the youth is that how we treat them. Right, they are the future, they are our leaders of the future, and we do need to treat them, care them, empower them. And I think this is a window opportunity, and hopefully the NLD will seize, and NLD will explore that and empower that, and then because end of the day, people. I give you example, Kosami. Myanmar people here, they get out of this country, Thailand, Singapore, United States. Look at it, all successful, educated, they work hard, they do that. Why in this country they cannot? Why they need to leave? So you see the problem already, right? So hopefully we need to think that Myanmar people are not, it's not that they don't have capacity. They don't have the environment, they don't have the proper infrastructure, resources like to enable them and to facilitate, to get the kind of mindset to empower them. That's what this generation needs. Yeah. That's what I would encourage.
Yeah, I kind of get add on something, Kosoman. With respect to what Chris said, I know you were up in Naypyidaw about maybe 3 or 4 weeks or a month ago for the NCA signing to witness. I was actually invited by UNDP at Pongji. Pongji is a sort of like a civil servants, national training center, where I met 40 plus potential leaders that are coming up.
So government servants.
Government servants,
yes.
Civil servants. These are from director, deputy director to potentially to WDG and DGs, and we talked about PPP model, and I didn't want to go through the whole day of talking about PPP, so we basically asked them a lot of questions and come out with a case study about how, put one group in the private sector, put one group in the private government sector, and what are some of the challenges that you see? Why are you not getting the empowerment? The overall arching theme came back is exactly what you're saying, the empowerment. Certain decisions are being controlled all the way to the top, right? And that's not needed in today's environment. What upcoming incumbent government needs to understand is this is coming. Today's environment is very dynamic, not static anymore, right? Even with the telecom competition, very fair, transparent, and guess what? That's only good for the people in Myanmar where they could access information now. Right? If you don't know anything, Google it. I tell my folks at my office, don't ask me anything. Okay, I'm not gonna know anything because I will Google it. So my question to you is Google it, right? So that empowerment is very important for us to develop the country, continuation of this economic, social, and political. And the key to that is empowerment of giving the authority of delegation, empowerment, and that level at the civil service, they know about capacity, they know about the rule of law, they know about the lack of enforcement of the law, and they also understand the transparency, and they also understand the corruptions, right?
Okay.
And these are some of the things that you're hearing from the working level, and you got to say, wow, Myanmar is, don't think the Myanmar people are not as educated, but we are some of the educated people. We read a lot.
Yeah,
So
I think yes. I think that's why I think the people, by and large, have voted NLD because they want change, that kind of change. Let me have closing thoughts from all of you, three of you. What are your thoughts on what Myanmar will be? Because we are for next 5 years for this time of the governance or government. What do you expect? What is for Myanmar to be in next 5 years when we sit again, hopefully for next elections in 2020?
Well, I would just like to go back to that point about change. My hope is that the relationship between government and business changes from one of money to one of expertise and trust. And I hope that in 5 years' time, at the next elections, we're not going to be seeing any candidates going around handing out 30 lakhs, 40 lakhs here. And where is that money coming from? Ultimately from business, one way or another. I would like to see that relationship changed so that we have a government by the people, for the people, working for business, working for civil society. That's my hope.
That is quite optimistic. Quite optimistic.
It's a wish.
What do you think? Yeah, it's a wish.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, I'm looking in the outlook of this country, economy. So when this change come in, this NLD win and civilian government come in. So some are putting the concern about businesses or things like that. For me, my personally, doesn't represent my.
You have 30 seconds for that.
For my personally, I'm a positive and positivity. Not even just positivity, that we are setting the right course, right direction, right. So that's why we will reset. We may slow down a bit. We may, economically, we may dip a little bit. We may see different kind of challenges, but in the long haul, this is good for this country. So that's why I think international or local or whoever in the economic outlook, this is to me is very positive. We may be messy, democracy already messy. Building the nation not overnight. Revolution you can overthrow in one night, but building the country is not that the way. So it's going to be long work. It's going to be a lot of hard work, a lot of challenges. But putting the right direction with the right people, with the right leadership, I think it will worth it in the long term, especially for our next generation and to come.
How about you? 30 seconds.
Well, I mean, Chris summarized it quite a bit, right? But what I say is, with this incoming government, ask for help. Number one, if you don't know, just raise your hand.
Yeah.
Okay, there are so many development partners that wants to help this country.
That is one of the ways of honesty.
Transparency. I need help on this. Okay,
seeing
ask
things
for help.
Clearly.
Don't be nervous, right? Second thing is engage with the the citizen of Myanmar. Be more transparent. Communicate, right? Continue to have this dialogue, because you need to also empower the younger generation that will lead the country 30, 40, 50, 70s from now. And showing that leadership makes a long way. Number three, continue to build on the basic infrastructure the country needs to attract FDI. That includes electricity, healthcare, human capital, right? Rule of law, right? Enforcement of the law, and also transparent, which means collecting taxes.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you.
And
let's see, we got a new people, new little, daily day, tomorrow, and we are also online.
ပြည်သူတို့တော့မျိုးတော့တိုင်းစာကြီးယူသွားနှစ်ကြ
မဲယုံနေမဲကြီးချက်ဝင်ဒီဘက်ဖို့ကိုဘယ်ရပြီကြံသေးလဲ
ဟာကြီးပဲချမ်းကြံသေးတယ်ပြီးတော့ဒီဘက်တစ်ဘက်ချမ်းရတယ်နည်းနည်းကြံသေးတယ်
လူတော်မျိုးနဲ့တွင်မှာမဲပြတိုင်ရရှိတဲ့ဤရောက်လာတော့ရှိရ
2 သိန်းကျော်တော့
မသိတော့ပြီးတော့မဲယုံတော့တော့ရှိတယ်
အဲ့ဟို240ဆောင်း
ကျော်စာရွက်မရဘူးလို့မနက်ဖြန်မှရမယ်တဲ့စာရွက်လို့ရတယ်အဲတော့ဆောက်တော့ယူခဲ့မယ်လောလောဆယ်တော့ပြီးအောင်ပြီးစောက်ကျွန်တော်
တို့2000ရေကောက်ပွဲတွေ့ကြကျွန်တော်3ကြိမ်ရှိပါပြီ3ကြိမ်စလုံးမှာဒီဂျိုဒီမဲကိစ္စနဲ့ကျွန်တော်တို့လာရှုပြုတ်ပွဲလို့ရအောင်နော်နိုင်ငံကျော်ဖြစ်တော့ဒီနာမနာမည်ကြီးခဲ့ပါတယ်နော်2010မှာတော့လည်းအဲ့ကာလတော့ထင်တိုင်းချေသွားတဲ့ဂျိုဒီမဲတွေပေါ့ဗျာနော်2010မှာကျွန်တော်ထပ်ပြိုင်ပါတယ်အဲ့ကာလလည်းဂျိုဒီမဲပါပဲဒါပေမဲ့အဲ့2010နဲ့2010နဲ့2010ဂျိုဒီမဲကတော့နည်းနည်းတိတိကျကျဝေပြောင်းမှုရှိသွားပြီဒါပေမဲ့2010နဲ့ဒီမနေ့ကကျွန်တော်တို့ဂျိုဒီမဲပြန်ရည်တဲ့အချိန်မှာပြန်ကွဲလွဲမှုရှိသွားပြန်တယ်အရင်တော့ဆိုဒီတက်ကပို့လာတဲ့ဂျိုဒီမဲသူအထုတ်လိုက်ပြန်နော်ကျွန်တော်တို့မြို့နယ်ရွေးကောက်ပွဲကော်မရှင်မှာဖြည့်ပြကျွန်တော်လည်းစောင့်ကြည့်တယ်အဲ့ကာလတော့2010တုန်းကဒီတပ်တော်တက်ကပို့လာတဲ့ဂျိုဒီမဲကအထုတ်လိုက်ကျွန်တော်ကြည့်တဲ့အချိန်မှာ